The Boys Season 3 Episode 8 Ending Explained. Well, this is it. The moment the whole show was building up to. With an explosive finale that saw an epic final battle, arcs of redemption, and cliffhangers for Season 4 of the show, I thought I'd jump straight in and break down and explain all that there was to take away from the final episode of Season 3. So let's get into it. Here is The Boys Season 3 Episode 8 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. I think this was the perfect way for Season 3 of The Boys to finish. The final episode in the season was titled The Instant White Hot Wild, and it's safe to say that it was a wildly hot episode. We had Butcher redeeming himself, Hughie coming to Starlight's rescue like he always wanted to do, Mother's Milk getting vengeance on Soldier Boy, Frenchie and Kimiko accepting who they were, and finding ways to move forward. One of the greatest performances from Queen Maeve, the Deep being, well, the Deep, A-Train losing his relationship with his brother, and a sad and emotional farewell to Black Noir. Not without mentioning Soldier Boy being defeated. As per usual, I'm going to break down each individual character's arc in the episode before touching on the overall ending and how it sets up Season 4. Homelander. In this episode, we saw Homelander's emotional side and the fear that had been present throughout the entirety of Season 3 only really be apparent for the first 30 minutes of the episode. We saw that he was disappointed and upset, that Black Noir was aware that Soldier Boy was his true father for all of those years and didn't tell him. He always viewed Black Noir as his friend, his best friend, and I think that's why he was so emotional when he killed him as punishment for keeping the secret. It was a moment that was extremely sad and I didn't expect it at all, as I was fond of Black Noir, but it showed that Homelander was genuinely prepared to kill anybody if he was prepared to kill Black Noir, as he was the only person he'd ever shown a genuine liking to. The first thing that we witnessed in the episode was Homelander going to get Ryan, which showed that the address that Newman gave Homelander last episode was his location. And in return for the address, Homelander got the Deep to take out Bishop so that Newman would be able to stand as VP. So the alliance between Homelander and Newman was truly formed, and it appeared as though this was something that was going to continue in the future. We saw Homelander give a speech to Ashley, the Deep and A-Train, claiming how he always thought that the band of heroes that would be put underneath him were going to be his family, due to the fact that he didn't have one. But he expressed how he was disappointed that he ended up with them. Soups that he deemed not powerful, and that he was far stronger than all of them combined. I think this was a moment that signified the dismantlement of the Seven. It had been dismantled for a while, but here he was showing that he had no respect left for them at all before leaving. The true performance of Homelander this season came in the final 30 minutes. We saw him reunite with Soldier Boy, his father, where Soldier Boy expressed how he felt Homelander was a weak individual. We saw Homelander introduce Ryan, Soldier Boy's grandson, to him, and how he wanted all three of them to essentially rule over the city, as they would be the most powerful together. Homelander showing Ryan to Soldier Boy with such emotion was the only piece of humanity that Homelander had left within him, and that was essentially viewed as a weakness. This was where we witnessed Soldier Boy grab hold of Homelander and then charge up his powers, before Ryan blasted him with his vision. When Homelander is with his son, we genuinely see a side that we don't see with anybody else. He cares and loves for him like no other, and he wants to be the father that he never had, and it's always interesting to see this side of the character. Whilst the rest of the group were battling Soldier Boy, we saw Homelander fighting Queen Maeve, where he did appear to have the upper hand. However, she did make him bleed and pierce his ear, which I would imagine would cause an impact to his sonic hearing in the future, which does make me think that the power may be slightly weaker in the next season. However, he came out of the battle okay. The final scene we got of Homelander was of him approaching his loyal followers and introducing his son Ryan to a wide amount of praise. However, we saw him blast somebody who threw something at his son in front of the whole crowd, to which it was followed by a cheer from Janine's stepfather Todd. It showed us that the audience that Homelander is now appealing to is that of what Stormfront's was. People that believe in extreme behavior and have the potential to wreak havoc on the city in the future, which I think we will see develop in Season 4. Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy never got to complete his mission of taking out Payback, despite the fact they all were. We saw a Soldier Boy that I felt had the potential to stick up for Homelander due to it being his son. However, we saw, just like how his own father treated him when he was younger, by saying that he was weak and not good enough, He did the exact same to Homelander when he reached out an opportunity to build a relationship with each other. After almost blasting Homelander, we saw him instead hit Ryan, where it then became Butcher's prerogative to keep his promise to Becca and ensure that he would never get harmed, which meant that the tables were now turned. Butcher saw just how dangerous of an individual Soulja Boy was, and then started battling him. It was an epic fight, one where it looked like Butcher was really holding his own, but in the end I'd say Soulja Boy definitely won the individual fight, and would have killed Butcher if the others didn't come in. Not only did Soulja Boy have Butcher on his tail, but he had Starlight, Mother's Milk, Frenchie, Kimiko, and Hughie from afar. We saw all of them chime in different ways. Frenchie was off creating the Novichok, which was the thing that they needed to get him into the sleep-like state. Starlight utilizing her powers, and I think being the most powerful she'd ever been. And a moment where MM was the one who put the mask around him, providing a full circle and satisfying moment for him. This highlighted just how strong of an individual Soulja Boy was, and on the same level to Homelander that he is, due to the fact that it took so many of them. However, none of it was enough to defeat them, as it took Queen Maeve to jump out of the Vought Tower, taking on a lot of the blast and losing her powers for Soulja Boy to be defeated. From here, he was then captured and put back into the tank, where he's likely going to spend the rest of his days. You could really sense the fear that he held, as for the first time in the show, when he said how he didn't want to go back in the tank, it was a moment that really stuck with me. You could hear the panic in his voice, and he was fearful of nothing else other than that. Soulja Boy was a great character in this season, and it's a shame that we couldn't have had him for longer, but all good things must come to an end. Butcher. From the moment the final episode started, we saw that Butcher did actually come through against all odds, and confirmed that Hughie did remind him of his brother, just like we presumed after last week's episode, and he did what he couldn't do to his brother, and that was save Hughie by making sure that he didn't take any more V24 and was out of the firing line. However, it didn't stop him in the long run. We saw Butcher take that final dosage of V24 this season, which meant that it was going to be fatal for the character, which was something that we saw in the end. It definitely was. He put up a great fight against Soulja Boy, and managed to break his skin. We heard earlier, if Black Noir sharpened his sword for 1000 hours, it wouldn't be able to do any damage to Soulja Boy. So this showed just how powerful of an individual Butcher was when he was on V. I think this could be alluding to the fact that he's going to take it next season, especially considering the fact that he's only been given 12 months to live. One moment that I thought was quite symbolic in the episode was when Butcher and Homelander both used their laser vision on Soulja Boy at the same time, and the glare of both of their eyes happened simultaneously. It showed that for a brief moment their views were put to the side as they fought against the same enemy. We saw Butcher holding onto the chain that he gave to Ryan that he ripped off back in episode 3, showing that he feels as though he's most likely let Becca down, by Ryan going off with Homelander. So I think that's something we'll also see get explored in the next season. He didn't inform the group of how little he had left to live, so I think in the new season it will likely come out as Butcher will get weaker and weaker. Hughie. Hughie got to address his season-long arc of being the hero and saving people in the final episode. He wanted to save Butcher and Starlight, just like they had done to him a countless number of times. Whilst the final battle was going on, we saw him inside the communications room and essentially evacuating the building, ensuring that the collateral damage due to the battle that was going on was going to be kept to a minimum. This was where we saw him do what he wanted to be able to do all season, and finally save Starlight by just being himself and without the need for V. The shot of Hughie looking down to the V24 was a moment that really symbolized that, by turning away from it and instead turning up all of the lights. When Soulja Boy had the upper hand, and it allowed Starlight to channel all of her powers, it showed that he didn't need the V to save Starlight, just like he always believed he did. We saw the fear in his eyes at the end of the episode as he saw that Newman was going to be VP to Singer, as he knows that she's the head popper and the true damage that she can unleash on the city. Starlight. We saw the goodness of Starlight shine through this episode, and it honed in on the fact that she along with Queen Maeve are the only true heroes in the Seven, and transcend everything that Vought supposedly stood for. She would keep MM on track when he would act with his emotions, and we ultimately saw her being the last one standing against Soulja Boy in the battle, before channeling all of her powers and exerting her energy. In the end of the episode, we saw that she was putting her suit down the garbage compactor, which just like at the end of episode 6 where she said that she quit the Seven, she is now well and truly departed from Vought, the Seven, and her life as the traditional superhero. Instead, she's joined the boys, and is going to go rogue and against the grain. I think it's going to be interesting to see her in that group next season, as I do wonder how the dynamic will be and how she'll fit in with Butcher being the lead role in that avenue of the show. Queen Maeve. Queen Maeve has left the building, quite literally. We saw that Maeve managed to escape the facility following her being transported, and it was here where she rejoined the boys to take down Homelander. There was a moment of double crossing where she destroyed the Novichok, but then in the final battle when things took a turn, she finally embraced the fact that she had to fight Homelander herself. We witnessed a battle we'd essentially waited 3 whole seasons for between both Homelander and Queen Maeve, and it was definitely worth it. It was good to see Queen Maeve express just how powerful she actually was, and in a one-on-one with the Soup that's considered the most powerful of all time, she made him bleed, which is something we've not seen before. And also, I think she damaged his sonic hearing in the long run. She did, however, lose an eye in the process. The fact that Homelander was so reluctant to fight her did say to me that deep down he did still have feelings for her, and that he didn't want to hurt her, but it was only through her persistent pushing that it caused him to react. We saw Maeve be prepared to sacrifice herself for the entirety of the group on the floor in the Vought Tower, showing that she was the true hero that she always believed she was. And it tied into what Starlight said earlier on. When Maeve double-crossed them, Starlight stated, "I really thought that deep down you were a hero," and in this moment she proved that she was. She grabbed a hold of Soldier Boy, leaped out, and absorbed some of the radioactive blast. We were led to believe that she was killed, and so was the rest of the city, considering that it was on the news. However, we saw in Ashley's video footage that she was saved by the boys, and Ashley then deleted the footage showing that she does care for Maeve, something we got a glimpse of earlier on when she was looking through the window in the facility. I think this is the last we'll see of Maeve, considering her powers were stripped from her system following the blast, and the fact that she said her farewell to Starlight. Mother's Milk. Mother's Milk had a personal vendetta against Soldier Boy this season due to the fact that his family was killed by him. We saw that he didn't act on emotions and he got to express his words to Soldier Boy, as he was the one who put the mask-containing Novichok around his face. We also saw him show Janine the history of what had happened rather than hiding it from her, and it was here where we saw her refer to MM as her hero, which I thought was an extremely fitting and touching moment. Frenchie and Kimiko. This duo each showed that they accepted themselves for who they were in this episode. We saw Frenchie sticking up for himself and showing that he's not the dog of the group, that can be commanded like we saw with Little Nina and with Butcher, and we also saw Kimiko accept her powers in a particular way. Frenchie's main job was to create some Novichok following Queen Maeve destroying the one that he had acquired, and this was by doing it in the Vought Tower. Whilst he was doing it, a group of guards came in and tried to stop him. This was where we saw Kimiko turn on her music and unleash everything she had on them. I think she did it with the music because, as we've come to know, she loves music, musicals and dancing, and by turning it on whilst fighting, it allowed her to be taken out of the brutality of the attacks that she was doing, and the monstrous traits that she'd previously didn't agree with or felt the powers gave her. This was almost like choreography. The pair definitely aren't off to live in Marseille following the finale, and it seemed as though they were going to be sticking around as members of the boys. Black Noir. I was devastated. Black Noir was killed by one of the only Soups that he got on with, and that was Homelander. After returning to team up with him to kill Soldier Boy, he was killed by the person he trusted most. One thing that I thought was quite touching was the fact that it actually felt like Black Noir was finally at peace, as he saw his imaginary friends all gathering round and comforting him. It was an emotional moment, and I do wish we got to see an epic showdown with Black Noir, but it just wasn't meant to be. I thought this really did shine a light on how similar Soldier Boy and Homelander were. After witnessing all of the flashbacks of how Soldier Boy treated Black Noir, Homelander did the exact same thing. It was extremely sad. A-Train and the Deep. We witnessed A-Train lose his relationship with his brother following the fact that he killed Blue Hawk. His brother wanted Blue Hawk to face true justice, and A-Train killing him in his brother's eyes made him no better than the murderous person Blue Hawk was. As we heard A-Train state, he's going to be the old version of himself again, following his heart transplant, so maybe we'll get to see more of him in the new season. The Deep story this season felt pretty redundant, other than carrying out Homelander's ask in the final episode. We saw that his wife in the closing moments of the season was being interviewed, discussing what it was truly like being married to the Deep and her journey to freedom, so we'll see exactly how it impacts him in Season 4. Additional extras. Following the closing moments, we saw that Butcher hadn't told anybody else in the group about the fact that he was ill, so I imagine as he gets weaker and weaker in Season 4, this is something that's going to be explored. I think Newman being selected as VP for Singer's campaign, and with little involvement of her in Season 3, I think it highlighted that she's going to be the true villain of the Boys TV show, and it's a slow burner with her. We saw her inject her daughter with V, and we haven't seen anything since, so I think that it's going to be something that's going to play a large role moving forward. With the lingering shot on Ryan as the closing moment of Season 3, we've already seen him take a preference to Homelander over Butcher, but I imagine we'll now see a mini version of the power-hungry, yearning to be loved soup that is Homelander being formed within Ryan. The finale of Season 3 definitely delivered, and it cemented this season as being the greatest one that we've had so far. Season 4 is going to have a lot to live up to, but I can't wait to see exactly how the story will develop in the future. So, there you have it, The Boys Season 3 Episode 8 Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on The Boys such as Endings Explained, theories and predictions or character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review next, then head over to my Twitter @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review. And finally, if you want to see what I rate movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of the season finale? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.